Hello everybody, this is Maniac for Bricks. You asked, and I'm delivering on the rest of the reviews for set number 5867 from LEGO Creator. If you missed out on the first part of the review where I talk about the main model, you can check out the link in the description below or in the comment section. For this review, we will be talking about the medium size and small size models, starting things off with this off-roader, which on the surface looks really nice. It has several pieces left over, which you can use for different things, most of them being hinges or plates. But I have to say that the shaping for this one really looks good. I really like how a lot of the white comes across the sides of it and aligns with the doors and also some of the back framing. I found it peculiar while building this model, and you might have already seen it already, that on this side it uses more of the 1x2s and 1x1 bricks, and on the reverse side we have just the 1x6. Due to the parts limitation in the set, that's how the designers decided to fit them in so that it looks symmetrical. Even though that by itself is a technique I haven't really seen that often in a LEGO Creator set, even for the alternative models. So as far as the features for this, we have it simply able to roll back and forth, a very common feature. You also have the roof that you can take off, although some pieces may get stuck on there. There isn't a lot of space in the back of it to actually fit stuff, but you could try as best as you can for a few accessories or something like that. I mean, they give the implication that there is a window back there, so there must be something to see. You actually do have some room for the interior, much like the other model we talked about, where there is some form of radio, or at least buttons towards a radio. There are 2 seats, and there is a steering wheel, and you can open the doors on the side. Much like the previous model, because of the rounded plates on the inside of the doors, they don't fully close to line up with the rest of the vehicle. If you see it from this angle, they actually do pop out a little bit, but I think that works a-okay just for the structure of the doors. You can also move each of these rear view mirrors back and forth, and they don't actually have any reflection on them, and it looks a little odd with the 1x1 round plates on there, but I'll let it go for the limitation of parts. Most of the clear pieces that would have gone there were actually used towards the front, which actually gives it a better look for the lights. And I do appreciate it for that. There is this section which is hinged down, and it actually doesn't open up. You only have a little bit of play back and forth here with it, but there isn't really much on the inside to look at, even if you did open it. One thing I do have to say is a big plus about this model, other than the shape of it and how the color scheme goes across, is the building technique for the window. The windscreen is done in a... I'm actually not too familiar with the technique, how often it happens, but as I'm going back in LEGO reviews, I'm actually finding more sets that do this than I thought originally. So it's really nice to see this technique being done with the window, where it's actually built up sideways and attached by clips in this center area. So that way it creates the height that is necessary once you put this top piece on there, and looks pretty good. I will have to say that one of the bad things about this set, at least for this model, is once again, you cannot fit a minifigure in here. It is not going to be enough space. If you were to take out some of the cushions that were for the windows in the back, you would get a little bit closer to that space. However, you're still going to run into some issues with the plates and the arch pieces along the back of it. So it's probably best that you modify the inside to the point where it almost doesn't have a seat, and just lay them a little bit lower, like so. Again, it might still be a difficult thing to do with the amount of parts that are in here, but it's something at least. I almost forgot which side this 1x2 plate was on. So it's just able to fit, but you'd also have run the issue of this not lining up. You could probably take another plate or two, actually even one from the set, and modify that as well. So if I were to just take this, and from the extra parts, I could throw in a 2x8 plate. It does look a little awkward once you actually fit that outside of there, because it's like, then what's on here? Maybe you can make that into a rack, I'm not sure. But it's at least something that's from the original set I'm trying to modify in order to make it work. The other option is that you could take this plate out and use a couple smaller plates, and much like they designed in the set, use different setups of pieces in order to, actually, I'll make this a lot easier. So, I'll take the 1x2s that were extra from the set, throw it on here, and boom. Yeah, there we go. So that actually works out pretty nicely, and you actually took out most of the blue pieces that were used for the chairs. So you can't actually tell exactly where the chairs are, but at least you have some room there to actually fit a minifigure. It can vary based on the minifigure's accessories, or the head of the shape, or the head gear shape, like any hair or if they have hat accessories. But for something very basic like this, at least it gets to fit along there. I know it took a little bit more time for the review for this half of it, or this third of it I should say, to talk about that, but I thought it was something necessary because if somebody was to go back on these sets, they would like to see if it's minifigure compatible. Now if you'll excuse me for one quick second, I'm going to take this model apart and put it into the smallest version, the go-kart. So, without further ado, let's get to building. And now here we are, the last model from this set, which is based on a go-kart. I'll have to say that they did use the pieces well and have enough angles to make it shaped like a go-kart. I actually did think that this building technique in the back was pretty clever, and I was actually surprised that it actually fit in there among some of the other pieces to hold it in place. So even if you have this thing tilted over, it's going to stay at that angle. So props to them for having something interesting as a building technique. I would say that this is a lot of plates to put together. When it came to the middle area, I counted about 5 layers of plates, if you don't count the tiles or panels above it. So, there's a lot of pieces left over, no doubt, because it's the smallest model from the set. But it definitely uses a lot more plate building, which can be a little tough for smaller hands, or making more precise, connections than using bricks. It is actually interesting how they change a couple angle pieces in here, or as it might be better known as hinges. Between the ones in gray and the ones in red, they actually swap 2 of them each, so that the larger one with 2x2s is actually on the red side instead of the gray side in the other builds. It fits better for the color, for the model, and some of the context of how this thing is built. I just thought that would be interesting to note. Looking at this model again, it seems a little bit bulky. I feel like it's, roughly along the same width or maybe a little bit larger than the other models that we saw. But if you actually look at this from the side, this area seems a little bit wider than I would have expected. It's not really a bad thing, and it does have a little bit of nice shaping in the middle of it, again through the help of those plates. But I think it could have gone in a little bit more and still have been okay. It does still from the top look okay because of the rounded kind of edging that it gives it, so nothing is really beyond this point even on the back, which now even looks a little bit short. So it's decent. It still covers some of the main look of it, but in my opinion it looks a little bit bulkier than I would have expected. Now, I am also looking at this right after looking at the more recent version of a LEGO Creator go-kart, which I believe was released about a year ago from recording this video. So looking between the two, you can see very obvious differences in how each of these go-karts are constructed, which also leads into their shape and leads into their play functions. In that, other than rolling them back and forth, the second one actually does have more play function to it. You can move the seat a lot more back and forth along 2 different hinges. You also have the steering mechanism in the middle, so you can actually play around with this. But you also have this part opening up a little, it's pretty easy to open up intentionally, but I think if you're actually steering this thing around, it shouldn't be too much in the way. You can already see right here, I can move this around quite a bit, and it's not going to pop right up, because most of the effort's going to be pushed downward. Because of that, it's a little hard to compare each of these two to each other, even though they have a similar color scheme and a similar concept that they're going for. But I just wanted to bring this up because there was a more recent version, which I personally like a little bit better. You do still get things like the engines leaning off to the side and towards the back. You also have the curvature around the sides of it, although I will say it's kind of okay with this one being a little bit shorter, but I think it could have still stretched out a little bit wider around the wheels and still been okay. Maybe it's just a little bit more to the play feature of this, so that, you can get more curve out of the wheels. But still, there's a look at both of these, and let me know what you guys think about each of these two go-karts in the comments below. I'm just going to wrap up my thoughts as far as the set entirely. This is actually the weakest model in my opinion of all three of the builds. I'm not comparing any of the other builds for this one in particular. I'll probably do that in a separate video. I did like the off-roader, and I thought with a little bit of modification, you could still make it work for minifigures, which this one, you can fit minifigures on there. Just might be a little bit of a tight squeeze and a little bit off in scale. Unlike this one, where you can actually lift it up and get more room for fitting figures in there, this one you really can't. You can kind of squeeze them into there, and yeah, it looks way out of scale for a minifigure. Whereas on the other two models, it looked a little bit better in scale, but still a bit large. And at least with those two other models, you could customize them a little bit just with the parts given in the set in order to make it work. Now, I would say as far as a creator set, it's a fun one to build and a fun one to pick up. Like I said, it does have some unique building techniques throughout some of the builds, so it was fun to look at this one. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed all three of the creator builds from this set, and let me know in the comments below which one you like the most. If you didn't see the previous video, like I said, link is in the description and in the comments if you want to see the main build from this set. We'll maybe talk about this one at a separate time. We'll see you next time with more LEGO videos.